Here's an example of a complex fraction that we're going to simplify two different ways. It starts out looking like this. 3 times x to the minus 1 power. You notice only the x is raised to the minus 1, not the 3. Plus 3 times y raised to the minus 1 power. And all of that over x to the minus 2 power minus y to the minus 2 power. Now, the first thing we have to do, whether it's method A or method B, we have to get positive exponents. And to do that, we are going to recall the rules of exponents. So we're going to be using the rule that says a raised to the negative 1 power is equal to 1 over a raised to the positive 1 power. Okay, so we're going to apply that here, and we will have this equal to 3 times 1 over x. It's just the x that turns upside down. That's to the positive 1 power, but there's no sense in writing x to the positive 1. It doesn't make it any different than x. Then we have 3 times 1 over x to the 1 power. And then we have x, 1 over x to the positive 2 power minus 1 over y to the positive 2 power. Oh, I see an error right there. That should be a y. Okay, not an x. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and simplify that a little bit further. So 3 times 1 over x. Remember, 3 is the same as 3 over 1, so I want you to see it like this. 3 over 1 times 1 over x, then the plus sign. 3 over 1 times 1 over y. And then on the bottom, it's just what we have, 1 over x squared minus 1 over y squared. Okay, so 3 over 1 times 1 over x, that is top times top over bottom times bottom. 3 over x, then the plus. Top times top over bottom times bottom, 3 over y. All of that is over 1 over x squared minus 1 over y squared. I think that I'll just show you the one method, the easiest method, I think, for doing this. I'm going to find the LCD of all the baby fractions. Okay, so you know how you do that. You take each of the fractions, denominators, the bottoms, factor them down, write them in exponential form if possible. Okay, so we got x, it factors down to x. We've got y, it factors down to y. We've got x squared, factors down to x squared, and y squared factors down to y squared. This was easy, there was no work to do. And you take all of that and you form the least common denominator is equal to the product of each of these bases, but you use only the highest power of each one. So it turns out that our LCD for all the baby fractions is x squared times y squared. So what do we do with that? We go back to our work and we multiply each term on the top and each term on the bottom by the LCD. Okay, so we have 3 over x times x squared y squared, then the plus sign, 3 over y times x squared y squared. Now if you want to, you can imagine x squared y squared is over 1. I don't bother to write it, but I'll go ahead and write it there. It's all over 1 because they're whole numbers. On the bottom, distribute multiplication by the LCD. It's 1 over x squared times x squared y squared over 1. And then the minus sign, 1 over y squared times x squared y squared over 1. Now, this is going to get rid of all the baby fractions because for the first expression, the first term on the upper left side, a factor of x is canceling with the factor downstairs. For the second term upstairs, we have a factor of y, one factor of y canceling. Downstairs on the left, we have the x squareds on the top and bottom canceling, and then the y squareds on the top and bottom canceling. So now let's do a little accounting and see what's left. On the top, we have 3 times x to the first power times y to the second. It's all over 1, but I don't need to write it over 1. It's just a whole number. Plus, next we have 3 times x squared times y to the first power. On the bottom, we just have y squared over 1, so it's just y squared minus x squared over 1, which is just x squared. Okay, we got rid of the baby fractions. Now we have a simplified fraction. So the next thing we do is factor and cancel. Now, factor and cancel. I just am getting happy because I can see that we're nearly done. Okay, so on the top, we're able to factor out a common factor of 3 times x times y. And that leaves, let's see, it leaves a y here, and then a plus sign, and then an x here. And you can check that by distributing multiplication by 3xy. You'll get exactly what's listed on top. On the bottom, we have, let's see, for the bottom, we're going to use the formula that says a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. Okay, so we use that on the bottom, and we get x, or I should say y plus x times y minus x. And now you see a common factor on the top and bottom. Y plus x appears as a factor on the top and the bottom. They simplify, and our answer is 3 times x times y over y minus x. Yeah, I don't think I'll bother to do the other method. That one worked just fine.